Welcome! Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and take a look inside what I like to call the communication machine. We're going to explore how all the media you consume every day, literally everything, gets made from just a tiny spark of an idea to the screen you're looking at right now.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? How does your favorite show, or that news report you saw this morning, or even your social media feed, how does it actually get made? It can feel like it just appears out of thin air, but it's not magic. Behind every single video, article, and post, there's a whole system at work. A system that makes very deliberate choices about what you see. So, let's get into it.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the fundamental blueprint for all communication. Then we'll follow the assembly line, from the initial idea all the way to the final product. We'll compare how a chaotic newsroom is totally different from a Hollywood film set, and we'll see what happens when the whole machine breaks down. And maybe most importantly, we're going to uncover the pretty surprising role that you play in all of this.
All right, first up, the communication blueprint. Before we can start poking around the nuts and bolts of these giant media factories, we've got to understand the simple recipe they're all built on. It's a classic model, but trust me, it is the key to everything.
Every single piece of media starts with a source, a who. Just think about it for a second. This could be a journalist who's just uncovered a massive story, a film director with this incredible vision, or hey, even a creator filming a video in their bedroom. It all starts with a person or a team that has something they want to share.
Okay, so that person has an idea. Now what? Well, they have to decide on the what, the message itself. This is the core content. Is it going to be a serious, hard-hitting news report or an emotional scene in a movie? Maybe it's just a short, punchy tweet designed to go viral. The what is the first major choice that shapes everything else.
And then we get to which channel. How does that message actually get from the creator to you? This choice is absolutely critical. A story that you see on a giant IMAX screen feels completely different than that same story if you read it in a newspaper or just watch it in a 60-second clip on social media. The medium, the channel, it actually becomes part of the message.
And of course, who is all this for? The whom, you, the audience, is maybe the most important piece of the puzzle. The creator has to know if they're trying to reach a massive general audience or a tiny niche of superfans. Every single choice they've made up to this point is shaped by who they think you are.
And finally, we have the million-dollar question, with what effect? Because let's be real, nobody creates media by accident. There's always a goal. The goal might be to inform you or to persuade you, to make you laugh until you cry, or maybe even to get you to buy something. Every piece of communication has a purpose. So there you have it. This is the blueprint, figured out decades ago by a political scientist named Harold Lasswell. These 5 simple questions. Who says what? In which channel? To whom? With what effect? This is the basic architecture behind every single piece of media you will ever see.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint. Now, let's see how that blueprint gets put into action. We're moving from the theory, from the architect's office, and we're heading right down to the factory floor, where this stuff actually gets made.
You can seriously think of it like an assembly line. It all starts with an idea, which then gets researched and developed. Next, you have production. That's when writers write, designers design, and film crews film. Then it hits this really critical stage, editing and gatekeeping. And finally, once it's all polished up, it gets distributed out into the world.
Now let's just pause on this idea of gatekeeping for a second, because it's a really big deal. Out of all the millions of things happening in the world on any given day, editors and producers are the ones who decide which handful of stories you're actually going to see. They control the flow of information. Now sure, that power is being challenged by things like social media algorithms, but this filtering process, it's still one of the most powerful steps in the entire machine.
But here's the thing. Not all media factories operate the same way. The assembly line for a breaking news story is wildly different from the one for a Hollywood blockbuster, which is different again from your Instagram feed. So let's compare them. This table really lays it out. Look at news. The goal is to inform, and the pace is lightning fast. So what's their biggest challenge? That constant battle between being first and being right. Now contrast that with film and TV. The goal is to entertain, the pace is super slow and methodical, and the challenge is just trying to coordinate hundreds of creative people. And then you have social media, a whole different beast. The goal isn't really to inform or entertain, it's to engage. And the main challenge? Trying to figure out what the algorithm wants today. It really shows how that basic blueprint gets twisted to serve totally different goals.
So these are pretty complex machines, right? And like any machine, sometimes things go wrong.
Every single step in this communication process has potential for breakdowns, for little glitches that can distort or even completely destroy the original message. In communication theory, there's actually a simple name for all these glitches: noise. And this quote really sums it up. Noise is basically anything that gets in the way of the message that the sender didn't intend to be there. And as we're about to see, it's not just about, literal sound.
Noise comes in all shapes and sizes. You've got technical noise. That's the easy one, like a bad internet connection or terrible audio. But then there's semantic noise. That's when a creator uses jargon or language that's so complex the audience just gets confused. Then there's psychological noise. This is a big one. It's the personal biases we all have, both the creator and you, that color how a message gets sent and received. And today, maybe the biggest noise of all is just information overload, where a perfectly good message simply gets drowned out by everything else competing for your attention.
And all of this brings us to the final, and I'd argue, the most important part of the entire process. See, the communication machine doesn't just stop when the content gets delivered, it ends with you. You are the final quality control inspector on the assembly line.
So how do media organizations know if they're actually succeeding? Well, they look at data just like this. And guess what? You're the one who provides all that data. When you watch something, that boosts their reach. When you like or share or comment on something, that's engagement. Even just deciding whether you trust a source or not feeds into their credibility. Every single thing you do is a data point that tells them what's working and what isn't.
So every view, every comment, every share, every subscription, it's not just passive consumption, it is active feedback. You are sending a crystal clear message back to the media machine, telling it exactly what you value, what you trust, and what you want more of. You are the one who completes the communication circuit, and you directly influence what they decide to make next.
Look, the media machine never stops. It is always running 24/7, creating and distributing content. But now you have the blueprint. You've seen inside. You know the choices that are being made at every single step of the way. So the real question is, how does that change things for you? Now that you know how the machine works, what are you going to choose to watch?